The lesson you most need will not arrive with a certificate, nor will it bow to your rubric or your red pen. It does not line up in neat rows like school children waiting to be inspected. It comes on like weather, roars like the surf, vanishes like breath on a mirror. The deepest teacher in your life is mystery, and mystery does not sit for your exam. It does not explain itself, because explanation is a way of making the wild tame, the open closed, the living dead. And I say to you plainly, whatever you can grade, you will soon reduce. Whatever you can reduce, you will soon forget. And whatever you forget, you will replace with a concept. But life is not a concept. It is the thunder that startles you, the taste of tea before you can name it, the feeling of being looked at by the stars at 3 in the morning. The mind wants to cage the bird, and the bird keeps singing. We have been taught to treat reality as a curriculum, with electives, majors, and a final. We stack moments into piles labeled right and wrong, pass and fail, as if the sky cared. Yet look closely and you will see that your breath is not graded, it is given. Your heart does not ask permission to beat. Trees do not consult a schedule before they burst into leaf. The river does not apologize for twisting. The cosmos is not a factory that meets quarterly targets. It is a dance that never repeats itself. And the steps are invented as they are danced. So when I say let mystery be the teacher you don't grade, I am inviting you to step out of the auditor's office and into the music hall. Feel again the scandalous relief of not having to know before you live, not having to count before you taste, not having to define before you love. This is not a repudiation of intelligence, but an honor given to a wider intelligence, the kind that watches a cloud and receives it without argument, the kind that hears a note and it doesn't disassemble it into mathematics before it moves the body to sway, the kind that wears a face of wonder not as a mask but as skin. Mystery is not the absence of knowledge. Mystery is the presence of everything at once, too rich, too quick, too whole to be squeezed through the bottleneck of certainty. The ocean does not come to you as water plus salt plus wave mechanics. It arrives as the roar that drowns your thoughts and leaves you shocked into silence. In that silence, the lesson lands. So let us talk together, you and I, without the need to be right and without the fear of being wrong. Let's wander out beyond the fences where the breeze has not been named and the grass doesn't know it is grass. Walk with me where the horizon keeps its secret and offers only the hint of more. Here we will not grade our seeing. We will let our seeing grade us, polish us like stones rolled by time and tide, smooth the hard corners of our certainty, round us into the shape of belonging. To begin, notice the ordinary magic you usually skip, the way morning light turns dust to galaxies, the way laughter collapses distance, the way a single pause in the conversation can be an opening in the wall, a gate to some tender meadow. Mystery recruits these small emissaries to court you, and if you listen, really listen, you'll realize the approach has always been gentle, even when it arrived as thunder. The message has always been the same: stop making life into a test. It is a play, not a play whose success depends on a standing ovation, but a play whose mere happening is its own applause. Now, some part of you might say, if I allow mystery to teach me, will I not drift? Will I not become irresponsible, vague, and soft? I understand that voice. It is the voice of the watchman at the gate of the known, guarding a city of well-aligned maps. But the watchman has forgotten that maps are made for exploring, not for living inside. The aliveness you fear losing is precisely what returns when you stop requiring that every moment present its credentials. Consider a child meeting rain. No syllabus, no prerequisites, just wet. That is the intelligence I'm pointing to. Not naivete, but immediacy. Not ignorance, but intimacy. And so we enter. The mind longs for a story with a neat angle, but the universe loves curves. Think of the coastline. The closer you look, the more it meanders. The straight line is a tool, the curve is a truth. The straight line says this is the shortest path. The curve says this is the way everything actually grows. When you fall in love or grieve or create, you do not proceed in straight lines. You spiral, you eddy, you return again and again to the same place and find it new. Mystery instructs by whirlpool, not by ruler. It pulls you toward a center you cannot see and teaches by the dizziness of letting go. Let me tell you a small story. A woman once asked me how to find peace. I told her to stop looking for it as a prize at the end of a course, and instead listen for it as the quiet behind every sound. The next week she returned saying nothing had changed. I asked her what she had listened to. She said, "I kept listening for peace." "Shaz," I said, "stop listening for peace. Listen." She frowned because this is the impoliteness of mystery. It doesn't clarify, it dissolves. She went away and later wrote to say that while washing dishes, she noticed the gleam of water on a plate, and in that gleam was a stillness that did not depend on outcome. She hadn't passed a test. She had been passed through. Mystery teaches like that, by subtraction. It removes the insistence that you must be other than you are, elsewhere than you are, later than you are. It cuts the thread that tethers you to tomorrow and returns you to the only place where life can be lived. Now. Not the now you can think about, but the now that arrives like a bell you didn't ring. You are not required to understand it. You are invited to be it. Let us deepen the exploration. What is it that resists mystery? A certain habit of mind, which I call the examiner, the inner bureaucrat. This examiner is always sharpening pencils, adjusting spectacles, and asking life to show its work. It wants reasons compact enough to fit in coat pockets, categories that do not leak. It favors nouns over verbs, conclusions over dances, and above all, it seeks control, the power that comes from predicting what the world will do next. But notice, the more tightly you grip, the more life slips through your fingers, like trying to carry water in a clenched fist. Control promises safety. It delivers tension. Mystery promises nothing. It delivers aliveness. Now, I am not suggesting you abandon the marvelous capacities that distinguish you, analysis, foresight, skill. Use them. But know their jurisdiction. They are brilliant in the kitchen of the mind, where recipes and measurements matter. They turn chaos into bread. Yet when you sit down to eat, you must put away the measuring cup. The taste will not be improved by arithmetic. There is a time to count and a time to savor. This is the delicate art, recognizing when the knife of intellect should be laid down, lest it cut the very thing you hope to serve. One of the suffering points of our culture is that we think we can live entirely in the prep kitchen. We grade conversations, grade our moods, grade our days, constantly evaluating the performance of the self as if the self were an employee anxious for review. See how every delight becomes anxiety the moment you make it an assignment. To walk becomes getting my steps in. To breathe becomes optimizing my vagal tone. Even meditation becomes achieving stillness. We mistake meters for meaning, but mystery has no dashboard. It is the breeze that makes the curtains billow, and if you insist on calculating the breeze, you will miss the dance of the curtain. Consider paradox, mystery's favorite instrument. In paradox, the mind finds a knot it cannot untie, and so it must either gnaw forever or relax the jaw and let the knot be as it is. The paradox I offer you is this: the more you try to be yourself, the less you are. The more you allow yourself to dissolve, the more you discover a self wide enough to include the stars. The person you think you are is a sketch, useful but incomplete, lines drawn upon water. You cannot stabilize it without losing the lake. So the teaching is not to fix the sketch, but to recognize the water. See that you are the lake in which the sketch appears. Another paradox. Freedom is not found by collecting choices, but by dissolving the compulsion to choose. Observe a moment deeply, and you will notice that the choosing happens, like blinking happens. We imagine a conductor in the head, baton raised, but decisions rise from fathoms you do not control. When you let this be, responsibility does not vanish, it matures. You act, but the action is less a push and more a flow. You are still accountable to consequences, but the accounting no longer tightens the chest. This is mystery teaching ethics, not as a code to obey, but as a harmony to feel. When you are in tune, it sounds right. When you are sharp or flat, the world gently winces and you adjust. How then does one listen to a teacher that never speaks in declarations? By becoming porous. A rigid mind is a locked room. A porous mind is a window open to the garden. Porosity is born of attention without grasping. Let your seeing soften. Allow the edges of things to bleed into one another. Notice how the sound of rain is not separate from the window it touches, nor the window from the room it darkens, nor the room from the thought that remembers another rainy day when you were small. This is not vagueness, but intimacy. The closer you are to life, the less you need fences between phenomena. I will offer you an image. Imagine the universe as a great game of hide and seek. What hides? The one. What seeks? The one in disguise as you and me and everyone. The rules are simple. Hide thoroughly or the game is dull. Seek sincerely or the game is cruel. Sometimes the one hides so well that seeking turns into desperation, and sometimes the one reveals a corner of its cloak and we gasp with recognition. There it is. And in that gasp, the seeker forgets to be a seeker and remembers being the one. Mystery, as teacher, arranges these moments with the casual grace of wind arranging clouds. But what about suffering, you ask, not rhetorically, but from the rib? This is not to be explained away. Suffering is real as rain, cold, unpleasant, often relentless. Mystery does not deny it. Mystery insists we feel it fully, because within the feeling is the door. When you cannot escape, you discover the room you thought was prison has a wall that opens when you stop pushing. Pain tightens you into a shape. Attention softens the outline until the pain belongs to a wider field. You are not required to like it. You are invited to trust that resisting what is already so doubles the burden. To be present is to halve the weight, sometimes more. Imagine grief as a tide that makes everything shimmer with salt. You could stand there grading the tide, too high, too dark, or you could let it move through, and in moving through, it teaches you the craft of being moved. Then one day, looking at an old photograph, you feel the ache and also the warmth of having lived at all. The tide has given you a shoreline. Let us return to the everyday, because that is where mystery conducts most of its classes. The kettle clicks, the bus sighs. A child asks the same question for the 7th time. In these little stations of the day, you may think there is nothing to learn, but the teacher is quick and quiet. Pause for 3 breaths in the doorway before entering a room and watch how the room meets you differently. Speak 1 sentence less than you feel compelled to say, and notice how silence completes it better than your elaboration. Look up at the end of a corridor and notice the bright square of a window as if it were a painting. These are not tricks, they are openings. The lesson, reality, keeps offering itself, and the exam is the one you invent by ignoring it. Now, to the practical business of living this understanding, not as a posture, but as a practice of friendliness toward the real. Begin with attention that is affectionate. Not a surveillance camera, but a gaze that says welcome. When you wake, before you collect your identity, feel the simple presence of being aware. This noticing needs no ornament. If thoughts rush in like commuters, let them board and depart. You are the station, not the train. Carry this friendliness into your first ordinary act. Pour water as if water were noticing you. Brush your teeth with the awareness that you are caring for a creature you have been entrusted with for a time. Bring play to your seriousness. We tend to invert them, being serious about play and playful about the serious. Mystery will reteach you the original arrangement. If you are solving a problem, feel where your brow is tight. Soften it. Let the problem become a riddle told by someone who loves you. Solutions often require the same neural weather as laughter. That little loosening is not irresponsibility. It is a sign that the examiner has sat down and the dancer has stood up. In conversation, experiment with listening so openly that the other person's words land in you without bumping into your opinions. This does not mean abandoning discernment. It means letting discernment ripen after the harvest. Many arguments exist because we insist the fruit be judged before it is ripe. If you listen until the speaker feels felt, you will find that what needed defending rarely requires defense once it has been seen. Mystery grades this generously. Where there is understanding, there is no victor and no victim, only a widening of the shared sky. Practice the art of micro-surrender, not the grand surrender that arrives in crisis, but the small, daily surrenders that unknot the rope of self-importance. Allow someone else to go first in traffic without narrating it as your sainthood. Let a plan change without drafting a grievance. Notice the habit of narrating your life as a ledger of who owes whom. Then, just as an experiment, set down the ledger and step outside for air. The world will still be here, but it will feel less like a courtroom and more like a garden. Gardens flourish not by verdicts, but by weather. Embrace boredom as rehearsal for wonder. The same mind that declares a moment dull is the mind that later declares the same. A moment sublime when the light changes. Rather than chasing stimuli, Widen sensitivity. Sit on a bench and decline the premise that nothing is happening. Attend to the choreography of ants, to the low parliament of leaves. Soon you will realize that boredom is not a lack of events, but a graceless way of meeting them. When grace returns, mystery steps out from behind the lamppost and winks. Reframe goals as invitations. The future is not a storage unit where you plan to live. It is a rumor that persuades you to move your feet. Make your plans lightly, like drawing in sand close to the shoreline. The tide will revise them. That revision is not failure, it is collaboration. When a door does not open, do not always assume it is locked. It may be that you are pushing when it wants to be slid, or that it is a window misnamed. The world is full of misnamed doors. Mystery loves this, teaching you to touch things without insisting they be what you thought. When fear arises, and it will, greet it as a courier, not an invader. Ask it what message it brings about closeness, about risk, about the small, defenseless animal that you also are. Let the body tremble a little. The trembling is not a malfunction, it is the music of discharge. If you stay with the rhythm without adding a story of doom, the score resolves into a softer key. Mystery has a hand in this music. It knows when the drum should quiet, when the flute should enter. Practice saying, "I don't know," as though it were a key placed on your palm by a friend. Many doors open with this key. "I don't know" is not a confession of incompetence, but an announcement that you are ready to learn. In "I don't know," there is room for the other to arrive, for life to surprise, for grace to have space. Depart a conversation with "Let me sit with this," and watch how answers ripple up from the deep without being dragged. Mystery dislikes being dragged. It likes being courted. Care for the vessel. Eat in a way that honors the fact you are not feeding a machine, but a flicker of the cosmos wearing a body. Rest before collapse. Move your limbs not as punishment, but as celebration that they move at all. When you stretch, feel the old sadnesses unhook a bit from muscle and bone. Hygiene of the soul does not neglect the body, for the soul is how the body feels from within. Relate to technology as a bell, not a leash. Let it call you when needed, then fall silent. If the bell rings incessantly, carry it outside and listen to wind instead. Your attention is a commons, protected from overgrazing. Notice how mystery speaks more readily when the commons is tended, when you have left some grass untrampled, some birds unalarmed. Cultivate rituals without superstition. Light a candle, not because the candle has power, but because the lighting awakens yours. Bow to the doorway of your home, not to appease spirits, but to remember you are entering a space you share with everything else that calls it home, the chairs, the spoon, your own loneliness waiting faithfully near the window. Ritual is how you remind the examiner within that it has a new job to keep the calendar, yes, but also to keep the heart. Finally, give your gifts without bookkeeping. The art you make, the kindness you offer, the skill you practice, let them be thrown like seeds from a moving hand. Some will land in soil, some on stone, some in the beak of a bird. The return is none of your business. Your business is the joy of the throw. Now we turn toward the quiet furnace where transformation warms the room. The ego, a useful nickname for a strategy, was built to make a solid me out of flowing occurrences. It is not an enemy. It is a craftsperson with a limited toolkit, a carpenter trying to fix the ocean with a hammer. When you let mystery teach, the carpenter learns to rest by the shoreline, to watch the waves do what they do without running to fetch more nails. In that rest, identity loosens. You remain, but you remain as space rather than as a wall. A wall defines by excluding. Space defines by allowing. What is it that awakens when you awaken? Not a superior version of you, but the dimension that was present before you learned your name. Watch your thoughts stroll by wearing the costumes of mine and my idea, my opinion. See how they bow when you look at them, as actors bowing to the audience. Who is the audience? The seeing itself, the clear pond in which reflections appear and vanish. This pond needs no approval. It does not pass or fail its own reflections. To recognize yourself as the pond is to discover a peace that does not depend on the picture. The thunder may crash upon the surface, but the depths remain untouched. In this recognition, life stops being a problem to solve and becomes a participation to enjoy. You are not on trial, you are on stage. and the audience is you. Perform, not to succeed, but to express. Then even the mistakes become choreography, the missed step leading to a novel turn. The teacher smiles because mystery loves the improvisation that follows an honest stumble. You thought you were lost. You find you are dancing. Let go of the chronic ambition to be elsewhere. You keep trying to move into the future because you suspect there is a door there labeled "at last." But every door you open swings into another present. All at last is always now. When this truth sinks in, urgency relaxes from panic to clarity. You still do what needs doing, feed the child, write the letter, mend the fence, but the doing is textured with ease. The mind is no longer grading the moment against an imagined perfect copy. The copy never existed. The original is here. Spiritual freedom is not an escape hatch, but an intimacy so complete it feels like flight. You do not float above life, you breathe with it. The breath itself is a tutor, taken without effort, given without discipline. Notice how it arrives unasked and leaves unfought. Between in-breath and out-breath is a small pause, the classroom where mystery leans close. Linger there without making a project of it. Rest in the small pause scattered across your day, before the phone call begins after the door clicks shut, in the instant when gratitude appears without reason. These are thresholds, and thresholds are where old Iden tighties forget to follow. Meaning is not a treasure buried ahead of you. It is the shine on the shovel as you lift it. You have expected meaning to arrive by proclamation, but it comes by participation. When you love, meaning saturates the scene. When you attend, meaning glows along the edges of things. When you are kind, meaning warms the air like a stove in winter. Mystery teaches meaning not as a sentence to memorize, but as a felt coherence when the inner and the outer hum on the same note. Let us finish as we began, plainly. Let mystery be the teacher you don't grade, which is to say, release the posture that life owes you explanations before you bow to it. Bow first. By bowing, the explanations you truly need appear, and the others are shown to be excess luggage. Walk lighter. Carry what carries you. Attention, breath, a willingness to be surprised. Before we part, take a moment to sit as you are. Let the spine find its natural dignity. Not rigid, not slumped, simply as a tree stands. Let the jaw soften, the eyes rest as if looking at distant hills. Feel the weight of the body, the kindness of the chair, the gentle insistence of gravity making sure you belong. Hear the sounds as if they were notes in a single piece of music, even the small mechanical whirs, even the murmurs of the street. Let the space behind your thoughts open like a window, and let fresh air move through. Silently now, inwardly, say, I am here. Do not make it grand, make it true. I am here. Notice how the statement has no comparison built into it, no grade. It does not say I am better or I am worse. It simply affirms presence. Rest with that for 3 breaths. With each breath, allow one layer of effort to slip off. Expectation, tension, the need to be extraordinary. You do not need to be extraordinary to be awake. You need only be honest. If a question remains, let it be a soft one. One that does not press for a verdict, but invites a listening. What is this right now when I do not insist upon a name? Not to trap yourself in the silence, but to widen the room in which your life is occurring. Perhaps you will feel the world answer not in words, but with a subtle warmth in the chest, a sense of being met. Perhaps you will feel nothing but the ordinary. That too is mystery teaching. Not every lesson arrives with fireworks. Some arrive like a hand on the shoulder in a dark room, steady and warm, saying, you are not apart from this. You are this. Carry this understanding the way you carry a candle through a corridor, shielding it with your palm, letting its light be small and sufficient. When storms come, and they will, you need not protect the candle from the wind forever. Sometimes you let it go out and stand in the rain until the sky teaches you a larger light. Then you will see that the candle was borrowed from that sky all along. Walk back into your day with a willingness to be taught by everything, by the delay, by the kindness of a stranger, by the taste that refuses to be described. Step gently. The ground is not a floor, but a friend. The next breath is already on its way, and it does not ask for a grade,